Howdy, folks. Welcome to the Sphere of Power session 65 Distractions, Diversions, and Decisions. So, in search of the salvation that was promised by Martek, the party has been cautiously exploring the ruins of Phoenix, an ancient resort, or more accurately, a playground for the elite of an era long ago. This location, deep in what must be the most brutal part of the Desert of Desolation, was revealed to them when the sheik's amulet was placed upon the ornate birthmark that is on the palm of the Princess Shadala. With the clues and markings provided by the amulet, these runes had been easy to find, if not easy to reach. But below the sands, these ruins have become a mix of amusement and peril. From opulent feasts, small doorways, and pies that magically assaulted the face of each party member, to strange mazes of light and dark and deadly mirrors, it is clear the party needs to remain cautious and alert, as literally anything could happen around the next corner. Having found their way out of the maze, they now find themselves exiting a long lighted hallway from the south into a part of the building that appears to be of a more normal construction, walls that can be seen, and rooms that have depth and shadows. To the left, what should be to the west, a branch of the corridor extends into darkness. Across the hallway to the north is an arched door, above which is a mosaic calligraphy. The door is of wood, bound with iron, with the latch on the left and hinges behind the door to the right, as suggested by the large reinforcing straps riveted to the door on that side. And hence we are ready to begin. So, do you guys all have the map on your screen? You're all able to see yourselves?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Soon enough.
All right. So many screens are going to give myself a whiplash over here. Alex, I gotta share with you. I had a hell of a time getting the field of view working this morning because I had the mask on. I was trying to use both at once somehow, not intentionally, but it confounded me for a bit. All right, so. All right, gang, what are we doing? Who's leading the way? Which direction are you going?
Well, I have no idea what's going on, so I'm following the general consensus. What's going on?
Well, you should have at least enough idea what I just stated, you know?
Yeah. I just don't know what immediately is going on. Like, what happened? What did I miss?
Ah, okay. Well, I guess you know, other than the summary, you guys began the last session finishing up the feast, if I remember correctly. The room to the north had a obelisk on it, and on the far side was some kind of reflective surface or mirror that duplicated Mizram, fortunately. And actually, I forget kind of how you dispatched the duplicate Miz, but since he was in cat form, it was a relatively easy matter. Anyone remember exactly how the fake Miz was removed from play?
I remember it taking a firebolt from our wizard. I remember it taking a sword to the face and then taking an arrow to the face, and then me doing what I do best, run with my cat tail between my legs.
I think I got it with magic, but I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But obviously, it wasn't that significant if it wasn't burned into our heads. Admittedly, had anyone else stepped in front of the mirror or Mizram in his alternate form, it probably would have been a lot more eventful. But cats are squishy, unfortunately. So this one didn't last very long. And the party was smart enough to pick up on the fact of, yeah, no more reflections. So you declined to proceed that direction and headed out towards the direction that the skeleton on the floor was pointing. And up the street a little bit was the entryway to a rather interesting maze. First one of light, which no, sorry, the dark one was first. That's right. So yeah, you couldn't see the walls on the inside. It was not a contiguous maze, so the old tricks of sticking to a wall would not work. There were also funky angles, so basically they had to stumble around in the dark until they found a portal. And at first, the party thought everyone had died, but actually, you just got teleported to another part of the maze where everything was brightly lit. All light sources were being multiplicatively enhanced. And you guys found your way through there into the hallway through which you are now exiting to the north. Oh, I guess the one thing that would be important is that the inscription over the door to the maze was something like, "My fun is your fun," or "Your fun is my fun."
Aha.
Maybe we should try to have fun doing this. It'll be easier.
Actually, given that it's meant to be a clue, I might as well make sure I'm giving you the correct wording. Ah, yeah, it was a little more than that. Okay. Step boldly, all who enter here. 'Tis not the place for cowards. Conquer selves and interfere. Who dares will be rewarded. Where was the line for "My fun is your fun," though? I know you guys revealed that. Oh, that was that should have been when you were first entered the foyer over the doorway where you guys got hit by the pie, and Albie, I believe you were here for that.
Yeah, the pie doors. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, the inscription over that doorway was "My fun is your fun." The inscription over the maze was what I just read, and I can repeat that if you need me to. All right, so that should give you enough background. Players,
If I cast, what happens if Redrith casts dancing lights and sends one of the lights on the other side of the reflection? Does it duplicate itself?
oh, you guys are long past there.
Oh, okay. That just occurred to me. I was like, I wonder if it's
I mean, if you want to
magical.
go
Okay.
back and try something like that,
Nope.
you're welcome to. But on the other hand, I don't know how a set of adversarial sentient dancing lights would go. So play at your own risk.
Well, I mean, does anybody want to do a little sneaky look around?
Well, you basically got two options in front of you at the moment.
So we can go. Is that 5-foot marker? Is that measuring? We can go. Which direction did we come from? I don't even remember.
You came from the south.
Okay. So we can go up here, or we can go out there.
Yeah, I'll just mark in this direction just to ask Keith what is down there, because obviously my character looking down there and I can't really make out what down there like. Is it like sealed off or?
Well, pretty much the description is still in the message of the day, but I will repeat it. A long, narrow corridor extends into the darkness to the left. Across the hall is an arched door, above which is a mosaic calligraphy. And I got to be clear here, even though they call it a calligraphy, apparently there's no writing or translation for me to share with you. So maybe it just looks pretty or some kind of interlacing or Celtic knot type design. The door is of wood bound with iron with the latch on the left and the hinges behind the door to the right, as shown by the large reinforcing straps riveted to the door on that side. The door pushes open to the right.
Right, I look at the click free on walls and look at the intention people to reap, and then just lie down and just go, "Oh, you enjoy." Meow.
More puzzles.
So the wizard needs to learn the spell knock to take care of these puzzles.
You know, that might be a very useful spell for this in future situations. I would not be inclined to disagree with you.
So the door with the straps is down here, or is it up here?
It's the, yeah, there's no doorway. Again, map is really simple, but it's what's in front of you. So even though you can see the shape of the room beyond, there's actually a door between you and it.
Oh, so the door is actually right here.
Yes. So my apologies.
Ah, okay. I gotcha. I thought the door was at the end of this hall or something like that. Okay.
No, so
Yeah,
the dark.
I was trying to figure out.
Left, and the room in front of you that is somewhat revealed is actually there is a door there.
Okay.
And I will point out on the original map, they didn't have any doors on the damn map either. Like I said, I had a few issues with getting this map ready. This one took me a lot longer than it should have, especially for the state that it's in.
All right, to death or glory. Let's go. We're moving here.
I'll follow, Mark, I'll follow.
I got your back.
Oh, shall I presume that you're opening the door?
Yeah.
See, anytime a DM asks that question, you just know there's trouble coming. I'm just saying.
Well, as long as it's something.
All right. So the first question is, how will you open the door? Opening the door. I gave you a very elaborate description of the door.
Okay.
So again, is of wood, bound with iron, with the latch on the left and the hinges behind the door to the right, as shown by the large reinforcing straps riveted to the door on that side. The door pushes open to the right.
Pushes away from me.
Correct.
All right. If it's unlocked, I just crack it open. Let me crack it open slowly and peek in.
All right. So what are you doing with the latch?
Operating it. I don't know.
Yeah, you're just gonna try and turn it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not a it's not a door knob. It's a latch,
It's a latch, so it's
which
just a
means you would
lift.
normally lift it and then pull and then push the door. In this case, push or pull the door.
So yeah, just softly lift.
Well, it seems to be very, very loose when you do so, and you don't hear or feel anything engaging or disengaging for that matter. And sure enough, picking up the latch and trying to push on the door is not doing anything.
Okay.
So for the rest of you who are watching him do this, he seems to have lost the concept of basic door opening skills. And more than a few of you are going, "What the hell are you doing? Open the door!" And in your head.
I don't
Now,
know.
whether or
There
not
may
you
be more
choose
than
to
a few of us
voice
who would do
that.
so out loud.
Yeah, I was going to say whether or not you choose to voice that, I will leave up to you guys.
If Art could be like, yeah, what are you doing? And try and open the door.
Not working. Like the latch isn't connected to anything.
Cut the straps. Should we just destroy the door?
I was wondering how long that was
Redrith
going to
does.
take.
Redrith whips up a mage hand to see if the mage hand can operate the mechanism.
Okay.
Anything happen?
So the mage hand, you're casting mage hand goes to the door. It now uses its finger on the, well, keep in mind that this kind of mechanism, you would have one hand with the latch and the other hand presumably pushing on the door. I guess you could push on the latch as you lift it, but that really isn't seeming to be working. It can lift the latch, no problem. So what are you going to do? Jiggle with it? Are you going to try to force it? Are you going to find another way to address it, or you're just going to give up because it doesn't work when you lift it?
I would like to try other things, but obviously if it's not a simple door, I don't want to force it personally.
Okay. Yeah, force isn't your only option.
Do it.
Do we have someone?
God, that
It's
sounded
not
very
locked, though?
Sidious-like.
I would assume that I'm using the mage hand while Haig is kind of leaning on the door. So
The
why I
question I
was-
have, I guess, as from the DM point of view, is that are you being entirely methodical or are you being more experimental?
Experimental. And I'm going to back up and say, open sesame.
All right, so
Okay,
go ahead, Alex.
okay. Sorry. Trying to remember which character I'm playing today, because I play so many. But I think I'm Elohir today, and
Yes, you are.
she's watching you guys argue with this stupid latch, and she's just gonna attempt the door.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let Redrith's mage hand do a little trickery first before you
Okay.
step in. So
Okay. I just
yeah,
meant before anybody tries busting down the door, she's gonna make her own attempt at just opening the door like a regular person.
that's reasonable.
And-
Now, if anyone like lifts up a mace or a hammer or a sword, you can be like, hold on a second. But meanwhile, Redrith is still benignly trying the mage hand. And so the hand floats up to it. It lifts the latch without any resistance. It tries to push on the door with the single hand through the pressure of the latch. And the door seems to be receiving the force of it, but it doesn't, it's not giving. Either that's not the way it opens, or the mage hand just doesn't have enough force behind it to push the door open. So it jiggles the latch a little bit more. And in the process of doing so, it realizes, hey, wait a minute. This one, even though it looks like it lifts, it seems to engage something when it pushes down. So as he's like, trying to push it up to see if it engages something, he hits it down, the hand comes down, and Redrith can kind of hear and feel it that, oh, wait a minute, there's another mechanism if you push it the other direction.
I mentioned that it seems to have more to it than it appears.
I'll think of it in reverse, kind of like the mirror. Push me, pull me.
So you're going to push down and pull on the door.
Or push down and push on the door.
Good job, Alvi. So pushing down on the latch. contrary to the way that it looks, because it's a lift latch, it's not a thumb handle. So he pushes down on the latch, you hear a click, and by pushing on the door, it actually pushes on the hinged side of the door, and so the side on the right opens up. So exactly as Albie said, it completely is opposite as you would expect. Instead of lifting the latch and opening from the right, you press the latch for it to pull open to the left.
You need to start remembering that this place is a fun house.
It is meant to confuse you, and the DM too, for that matter. All right, so Albie, you're opening the door presumably once you've got the catch figured out.
I wasn't even standing in front of the door. I was just offering a suggestion to those standing in front of the door.
Well, I interpreted it as like, here, let me do this.
Either or.
That works.
We're gonna let the cleric open the door, since there's not going to be any adverse effect from doing so, other than the torture that your eyes are about to witness.
Let's just say that the cleric has healed so many rogues from opening doors that I don't usually open doors.
So, and just to be clear, you're not able to fully open the door through the leverage on the short side of the hinge, but you are able to push it open enough that you realize which direction everything is actually pivoting, and it doesn't have to be you, but someone can grab the other side of the door and pull it open at that point.
Cool.
So who is that going to be?
I should already be close by to the door. So yeah, I should already be close by.
The wizard is entirely above manual labor, and so we'll let somebody else open the door.
All right, so we're having Haig open the door, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So beyond, you can now see the room. And again, sorry for the lack of decoration. So use your mind's eye to envision the following. The room is a shambles. Smashed furniture, broken chests, and shards of pottery lie everywhere. From somewhere under the mound of refuse in the center of the floor, the odor of something long dead permeates the room. The walls, ceiling, and floor of the room are made of cut stone. There are no visible doors.
Wow, that's loud and obnoxious.
Oh, I almost forgot again, Kaylee. I'm surprised you did not remind me, but here's your timestamp.
Sorry, I'm arguing with technology because the phone that I'm trying to use for internet is not cooperating.
And you're still not even in game yet.
Yeah, like I said, I'm arguing with technology, which is why I haven't bothered with the timestamps thing yet, because it doesn't do me any good if I'm not already in Fantasy Grounds.
All right, folks.
Okay, so
we're a room full of debris.
Oh, I'm gonna start sifting through debris. Debris is usually a sign of stuff.
I will use my mage hand to assist, because that way I don't get my fingers dirty.
From the smell of things you really don't want to.
Smells gross.
All right, so I have Dan manually, Haig manually, and Redreth spiritually investigating the refuse in the room.
Do you want checks of any sort?
Well, search checks would be nice, but I was going to first ask, what lighting are you guys going to be using at this point? Has anyone lit any kind of torch, lamp, or otherwise, or are we all relying?
I was going to say, I got the hand up, so I don't think I can do dancing lights, because I think they're both concentration.
Of course, my good fellow. If it's dark out, I'll have my monocle on.
Love that monocle.
That will never get old.
This room is quite stinky. And hello, Mr. Refuse.
Perfect
Our
proof
good
of how a
chaps, if you'd, give
seemingly
me one-
innocuous magic item can really lend a whole boatload of character to a game.
My good chaps, if you'd give me a spare moment, I'll try to shuffle through this mess and make sense of it.
Mage hand does not appear to be concentration.
Oh, cool.
Well, if
that's
that's the case, then I will absolutely throw the dancing lights up into the room, so we can all see.
Good plan.
Okay, so like I said, Haig and Redreth, go ahead and do your search or investigation checks.
Come on, something good. I don't want to do all that and it be crap. Not bad.
Well, are we supposed to do it in the tower or in the open or what?
You should do it in the
Oh,
tower,
sorry.
but in this case, yeah, it's one of
Sorry, I
those
forgot.
situations. Yeah, so if you roll high and you find nothing, you know there's nothing to find.
Right,
But
right.
if you don't know that you rolled high and you find nothing, you don't know whether or not there's still nothing to find. So, but in this case, he will find something.
Cool.
In Redreth's case, Redreth will not find anything, and he doesn't know whether or not he's going to find anything.
Redreth is too overcome by the smell to concentrate on what his hand is digging up.
This is very true, and the hand is getting kind of icky, to be quite clear. All right.
The best way to wash it is to dismiss it.
And this is true, and then you can summon a fresh one.
I'm still getting over the image
Oh,
of the
gosh,
Goliath sticking his hand in the rubbish and going, "Ew, gross."
Well, that certainly gives a whole new thought to the way we have to address personal hygiene too. Clean hand every time. All right, so let's see. What does Haig find? All right, so I guess the first thing that you come across, Haig, is the bodies of what appear to be 4 long dead individuals.
Like dry long dead or putrid long dead?
Dried. They are desiccated and, like the other, without bones.
Okay.
And again, this is strange because even most dried up bodies, unless they've been dead for millennia, bones still usually are left somewhat intact. So there's a
Okay.
definite question of exactly why are the bones missing from these bodies.
Okay. Nothing glinty, nothing special.
Not in the pile into the center of the room now.
Okay.
Redreth is obviously being too disgusted by some of the other more putrid and still decaying items in the room that are causing the pungent odoriferous smell. Anyone else going to help out, or are we going to retry, or are we going to backtrack?
Well,
Oh.
I'll help out.
If that's all I'm seeing so far?
Yep.
Or do I see? Okay, so I find individual guys and not much of, or just where I'm at, or do I have to move other places and investigate again?
Like I said, I presume you were investigating just the pile in the center of the room. There still are definitely other areas in the room that you can investigate.
Okay, I will move and investigate some women.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I'll,
Hopefully I won't need to take this.
Varric will assist.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. Taoli is going to step up to the very edge and if she could spot anything that looks interesting or important without actually going in or touching anything.
Yeah, quite literally, without getting your hands dirty, there doesn't seem to be really that much of interest here. Now, Albie, you said you were going in.
Yeah, I did roll an investigation in the tower.
What did I?
Okay, so
Oh, I did it outside again.
Albie does actually happen to notice a glint coming from under a heap of refuse against the far wall.
Should go investigate further.
I also want to make it clear that the smell has driven Redrith pretty much right back out of the room. So
Yeah,
he's out in the hallway.
No one is quite having a gag reflex, but we're like a hair's breadth shy of requiring a roll for it. So Albie heads on in. Finds the pile there. And confirms there's, yes, something metallic glinting from underneath the pile. Gonna get your hands dirty?
Of course.
Well, as you scrape away some of the detritus that is littering the area, you come across a small brass lamp. Surface heavily
Ooh.
wrought with signs and symbols of ancient religions.
Uh-oh.
You recognize it as a religious artifact right off the bat, not a magical one.
Since
All
it seems to be a thing, if you need someone to activate it and take all the effects, I will do it. I seem to
Hand
do
it
it
to
for
the
everything
mage.
else. So yeah, there you go.
All right, I missed part of that. Say that again. Who's taking possession of it?
I'm giving it
Oh,
to
I
Redrith.
was just saying that the mage seems to be kicking off the curses and all the other kind of things that happen. So if you need someone to activate it and see what happens, I can do that.
All right, so you're handing it off.
Are the symbols able to be read?
They're
Would I understand
They're
any of them?
religious symbols. They are not magical.
Oh.
You are able to tell that much, and in that regard, Fekish is much more likely to be able to interpret them than you are.
Yeah, I'll actually look at it and I will hand it back and say this is religion, not magic.
Cool. We'll shelve that for later.
You want me to look at it?
That's true. You do have a religious component as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we can take a look at it later for sure.
Yeah.
When we rest.
No sense hanging out in this room when we can go to someplace more pleasant.
Yes. Let's leave the stinky room.
All right, so you have the lamp in hand. It's the classic iconic Arabian brass lamp, with the looks more like a tea serving device than what we would consider an oil lamp.
I want 3 wishes. No wishing for more wishes.
Are you just asking for the wishes and expecting the lamp to grant it to you?
Oh, I handed the lamp back off to the people who might know something about religion.
Right. So
Redrith is getting away from the stent and is actually heading down the hall. So
okay. So Fekish, you handed it off to
Redrith. And then Redrith handed it back to me.
Red just handed it back to you, and then you gave it to Varric, right?
Yeah. And Barrick and I have decided that we're going to leave the room to investigate it. Or we'll investigate it when we leave the room. We're not going to hang out in the smell unless there's anything else we need to look for in here. There's no point in staying in here.
All right. Let's see. Actually, Alex, go ahead and do your investigation check, because you said you were looking around too.
Yeah. All right, gotta find the right tab. I don't use this tab all that often. Although I was planning on doing my looking around from the doorway and just seeing what I can see. So I don't know if that's still investigation.
Well, nothing seems amiss or unusual to you, especially after Fekish locates the
Okay.
refuse, or the lamp in the refuse. But it does make
Yeah.
you wonder, is like, okay, well, you know, why was that in here? What was this room used for?
Yeah.
And of course, all of you are asking is like, well, if this was a religious artifact, what was it doing here? This doesn't look anything like a temple or anything.
To be 100% clear, Redrith is not asking that question. He's heading down the hall. He's already forgotten about the room he left.
I was just going to kind of clarify that. So Redrith is looking down what appears to be unfortunately, a dead end hallway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not something that we will accept. If he reports that that's what it appears to be, then we might do something about it. That just does not seem like the way this is.
That can't be all there is to it.
Yeah, that just seems a little off. That really?
By the way, Redrith is taking his dancing lights with him as he goes. So,
Of course he is.
right. So, yeah, so he'd like to look around and poke around down here, and just mumbles about seems empty, no doors. I don't know if anybody else is listening. He's not even paying that much attention to everybody else. He's just looking at the hallway, trying to figure out what's going on there.
Well, actually, unless you are purposely muttering to yourself or speaking extremely quietly, the hallway actually does carry the sound pretty well back to the rest of your compatriots.
Okay, that's cool.
So,
Okay.
Kaylee is justified in saying, yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. So Kayla is going to come down the hall very slowly and just kind of, inspect it for abnormalities, inconsistencies, irregularities.
Well, again, as pointed out in the beginning, after coming out of the maze, this area definitely looks a lot more normal than what you just exited. So inconsistencies at this point would probably be very unnoticeable. And that being said, you really don't come across anything. It just looks like a darkened, unused hallway for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Actually, I should point out the far end is blocked by sand that is encroached in the building, but there really doesn't seem to be anything beyond it.
Okay. I mean, I was
Probably about where Red Dress is about the point where it becomes impassable.
okay. I mean, I was honestly thinking of literally making a roll to look for secrets.
Oh, you could still do so.
Yeah. Because this just feels wrong. So
All right.
taking my
so-
time, going over every square inch I can reach, which is pretty much the entire thing because Ring of Flying.
Well, that is definitely going to take a bit of time. And regrettably, it does not reveal anything inside that corridor.
Well, that's problematic. That means probably have to search the room a little more carefully. That includes this section of corridor as well.
Yes, we can say that it does. So, but that being said, you're spending probably a good 20, 30 minutes looking through that corridor. So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah, are the rest of you doing anything while she's going through the corridor with a fine-tooth comb?
Ark's gonna ask the wizard if he has prestidigitation and can get this stinky shit off his hands. Just holds his hands towards his face.
If not, I'm going to play hide and seek with you all day.
I have to look. I honestly don't think I have that.
No shit.
Yeah, out in the desert in this heat, using water to clean one's hands is not exactly the most viable option.
I say I don't have water, but I can do a fireball
Burn it off, man. Flesh
or
too.
firebolt for that matter.
It will be
No,
sterilized.
thank you. No, thank you.
Well, cauterized, but it'll be sterilized.
It'll be all right.
All right, so Miz is probably just cleaning himself as usual. I would suspect that while you're waiting for Kale, you guys are going to be looking at that lamp at least, curious
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and it is now currently in Haig's possession, correct?
Barracks.
I think
Bar-
Varric has it.
Barracks?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Who's on
so,
first?
And what's on second?
so Varric, you're looking at it. The symbols
Mhm.
that are on it, at least what you can make of the symbols, definitely appear to be religious. They do seem to be consistent with what you've learned so far of the Rorindi's religion,
Okay.
which included the references to multiple gods as opposed to the Drapari's concept of one god. The different symbols of the ones you can see do seem to each represent different gods of the pantheon, but at least you recognize some of them. A lot of them are still covered up with dirt, though. Still a lot of sand and stuff stuck to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna brush that away to try to look at it, or you're just gonna handle it as little as possible.
Shit. I'll try and clean it up so I can read it.
Okay, so you're actually gonna clean it up, not just brush off the dirt, the loose dirt.
Yeah, at least around like any of the stuff. Yeah, he'll brush off the dirt and grime to try to read the sigils and shit.
Huh, hold on one second. I just found a potential inconsistency that I need to confirm the right way to handle it. Don't tell me we don't have a 5th edition equivalent. Okay, gonna have to wing it. All right, so as you brush off the bottle, or
Yeah.
the lamp of the dirt, can you guess what happens? Yeah, we're gonna be stereotypical here, folks.
It turns into a pumpkin.
No, wrong fairy tale.
Damn it.
I thought a big cloud of death was gonna come out.
No big cloud of death, but a small cloud of white bluish smoke does start emanating from the tip of the lamp, or the spout of the lamp, more appropriately.
Ooh.
And as it does, it gains in volume, begins coalescing into what appears to be a vaguely humanoid shape, but with a very ill-defined lower body. Only the torso seems to be well-defined. And as it begins to, I don't want to say solidify, but come into focus, you can tell that the upper half is indeed that of a man wearing a turban, wearing some rather ornate jewelry, or more specifically bracers around his wrists, but otherwise he is bare-chested. And below as well, his waist, he is mostly a form of mist. He is not corporeal, though. You can pass your hand through him without too much of an issue, if you were to do so. It does not appear to be necromantic. There is no sense of fear or death or anything else like that. You actually kind of get a warm, well, for lack of a better word, a warm, fuzzy feeling from him. Not that you want to pick him up and cuddle him, but he definitely feels like someone that is, or an entity that is amiable and that you might be willing to trust, as opposed to just attack. Nonetheless, his appearance is a little bit surprising and startling. Players know the legend of the genie of the lamp. The characters do not.
Yeah.
So how are
Mark
you
will
going
jump
to,
back.
given that it can't be too elaborate or complex, just basically wondering your initial stance and attitude, how do you choose to respond to the appearance of this entity?
Does he
Redreth
appear
is still
aggressive?
down the hall, so he doesn't notice.
Okay, valid point. And that
Does he
actually
appear
still applies to
aggressive?
Kaeli because she's investigating the hallway. But Ms. and the two brothers, well, obviously the one brother's opening it, so his brother will notice him cleaning the lamp, and Feck is just kind of too close not to notice.
I'm just gonna, Varg's kind of gonna be like, oh shit, for a second. Just wait and see what happens.
Say that again.
Varg's just gonna wait and see what happens.
Okay. Anyone else taking a proactive response, or just also, or are you all going to respond in kind?
Just kind of watching the whole thing unfold.
Yeah.
All
Does it attempt to speak to us at all?
As it gets its bearings and becomes aware of its surroundings, it seems to very quickly do a visceral assessment of each of you, or at least the ones that are in his immediate vicinity. And yes, it does appear to be a male. And he seems to have a bluish tint to him. And his face.
Koloss, Maddie. He's a Koloss. Maddie will get the. I don't remember how many have read Sanderson.
Well, his face initially appears, curious, inquisitive, perhaps somewhat, I don't want to say fearful, but cautious. But as he looks over each one of you, he seems to change slowly into a state of first relaxation, and then his next state is quickly confirmed by what he says following up, and that he is now in a pleading state. And he's like, oh, thank you for arriving, thank you for saving me, bringing me up. And he looks around at the floor and the walls, and it's like,
Oh my gosh, this is such a mess. I won't be able to clean this all up. Would you be able to help me do so? I would really, really appreciate it. It would be worth your while if you could help me do so.
At the sound of a voice, that will get Redreth's attention. He'll turn around and start making his way down the hall. Not there yet.
Yeah, you probably can't make out exactly what he's saying, but you definitely hear a different voice coming from that room, and that applies to Alex as well.
All right.
I missed a bunch of that. It got all digitized. What did he say?
He basically asked you for help to clean up the mess in the room and said it would be worth your while if you did.
Piece of cake. Doesn't the wizard have prestidigitation?
Didn't we go over that he doesn't have that?
No. Nope, I do
Doesn't.
not
couldn't
have
remember.
that. Nope. But I
Just
have
when it would
something
most
almost
come
as
in
good.
handy.
I have something
Yeah,
almost
right.
as good. I'll just light a fireball and that'll just take care of everything.
Sweet.
I wonder if that's an acceptable form of, I mean, for some, it definitely is. I wonder if the,
Sanitizing.
yes, I agree. For some, it would definitely would qualify, but, if there's something this individual is trying to save.
If it's dusty, if it's dust, we would have to stir it up before it burns.
Yes. Yes. That seems like a perfect way to get rid of these invaders, these incursioners. How dare they try
Nice.
to steal my master's possessions? But alas, there seems to be nothing left. Very well. Incinerate it all. Perhaps it'd be better if I just start from scratch.
Should we throw it in and try to shut the door so we don't get any backblast?
It's a 20-foot radius circle, so
Medieval equivalent of the oven cleaning cycle.
Well, I'm gonna back away from the door, remembering the backblast from the last time we did that.
actually that's about perfect. Look at that.
Isn't that special?
It won't even have much backblast coming out. So yeah, come up and so you can see through the door. I'm assuming Feckish wants to come out before.
Yeah, please.
Oh, I thought he was gonna do the dry heat. Those Dragonborn do kind of like it hot sometimes.
A little more than I would probably enjoy.
Yeah, probably.
Bit too hot.
Feeling hot.
It definitely would not remain comfortable. All right, you're gonna make me move you out?
Like it hot.
Oh, yeah, no, I can do that, I suppose.
So I aim basically for the center of the room, and I will do that much damage to whatever's in the room.
And is someone standing by to close the door?
Varric will close the door.
Okay, and
Good
remember.
on you, brother. Good on you.
And remember the way that the door opens and closes, basically everyone except for Feckish and Varric are staring directly at the room. Everyone else is kind of behind the door to the left there. So Varric goes ahead and slams the door shut as Redreth unleashes it into the room. He steps away to the side. You hear the boom, the crackle, the cinders, the spinning of embers, and you hear something else. Everything else seems appropriate, but something else doesn't quite sound right. It almost sounds like it was a bunch of falling debris, but not very heavy debris. But it doesn't make much sense because there really wasn't anything in there to fall unless the ceiling caved in. But if
Was
the
there a
ceiling
mimic
ca-
hiding
if the-
somewhere?
Huh?
Saying, was
Said
there a
was
mimic
there-
pretending to be the ceiling or something like that?
I was going to say the other possibility is that the ceiling caved in, but if that was the case, you think you would have felt, a lot more rumbling and shaking, and perhaps even the ceiling above you, at least, depositing some debris and whatnot on you. So something happened in there that you didn't expect, but you're not exactly sure what.
After everything
Might as well
settles,
go
then
check.
I would go back up and check out the room and see what it looks like now.
Me too.
Give me a second here. So as you step into the room, you notice that where the wall on the left had been, there now is a large assortment of rubble. The wall apparently did come down in the process. And presuming at some point one of you is going to walk up, over, or through the rubble, someone is going to either intentionally or even accidentally kick or step on some of the bricks. And in doing so, it, whether you step on it, it crushes, or if you accidentally kick it, it like goes halfway across the room. And it immediately becomes apparent that that wall was made out of something very, very lightweight that was meant to look like a wall. And as a matter of fact, the pieces have all fallen in a way, perhaps intentionally, but it looks like it could be actually reassembled relatively quickly.
Ooh, a hidey hole.
The question is, what's behind it?
Well, the room beyond it is furnished in Spartan, yet comfortable chairs and stools. The right-hand wall is pierced by 2 doors, but the room is dominated by the huge carving of a skull in the opposite wall, opposite the doors. Oh, actually, let me double check. The carving is as tall as the wall itself and so deep that it reveals the room. Oh, okay. So yeah, there's a cross from you on the west wall. And so deep that it reveals the room beyond through the eye sockets and nose hole. Above the carving, runes reform to read death to all who enter here. Through the carving of the skull can be seen an empty room, completely devoid of any markings, save a brown stain on the opposite wall just above the floor.
Divine sense. Fake fiend or undead.
So just to be clear, the death to all that enter here, is it on this wall?
Correct.
Okay, so not, okay. So you said that in the room here, there are a bunch of nice furnishings or relatively reasonable furnishings?
Spartan yet
Okay.
comfortable was the words that were used.
Huh.
Chairs and stools. So not huge tables, no sofas and whatnot, but place that you can sit down. It certainly is a lot cleaner than the other room.
Any knickknacks or artifacts that might be interesting?
No, like I said, it's pretty Spartan. So just the bare necessities. I guess probably the most interesting item in there is probably the remains of some pottery containers, little bits of clay and whatnot that might have contained water at one time.
Well, Vargo cast Divine Sense and see if he can feel anything nasty around.
Do you still have your dancing lights up, Redreth?
Yep.
And are they hovering around you, staying behind you, or do you have them in fixed positions?
They are pretty much, I'm going to have one right here, there, kind of lighting up the corners of the room, and then one still back out here too.
Okay.
I'm going to suggest we don't go into the room. I got kicked out again. We don't
No,
go
you
into
got
the room where it says death.
Well,
Does
until
my
there's a
divine sense
reason to
tell me
do
anything?
otherwise, that's usually a good precept to follow.
Yeah, but it's a fun house.
Now
Don't
it's
forget.
filled with evil clowns.
So that
You
could
will laugh
be
to
the way to go. And that could just be right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Up is down, down is up, false is true.
Yeah.
Drugs,
Yeah.
cats living together.
One thing you can be pretty sure of is that nothing will be consistent.
What's the plan?
Yeah, that was not.
Somebody's thinking of going in.
Vargas, for sure. I'll cast Shield of Faith on myself and walk in.
Now you said there's a doorway in that wall or
There
an
are two-
opening,
There are two doorways that currently the map is showing lights showing through on.
but those are not the ones that have the sign over them that say "Death if you enter," are they?
Correct.
Uh,
So you have two doorways to your right. Ahead of you is a carving.
You got really quiet.
Sorry. All right. So you have two doorways to your right in the north wall. You have a carving ahead of you, above which are runes that say death to all who enter here. And through that carving, you can see what appears to be an empty room. Now, that being said, there isn't exactly a way into that room through the carving. I mean, Mizram could probably crawl through the mouth and Mizram could probably crawl through the mouth into the room, but the rest of you probably would have to either break down another wall or find another way in.
So where the arrow is the opening into the room with the death to all who enter here, right?
Correct. But again, it's not that big of an opening.
Right. Okay.
You can see it through its eye slots and through its nose, but it's not really big enough for anyone to pass.
is the genie still out of the lamp?
I was going to say Redreth will go back to whoever is holding the lamp for the genie and ask, what do you know? What information can you give us about this?
I was wondering you're going to ask him. Let's see. I hate it when they don't put what they know in the right section and you have to skip all over the module to figure out what they do and don't know. Oh, good Lord. Uh, okay, so the being, which you're referring to as a genie, which may or may not be, looks over at the carving and it kind of goes up to it, kind of looks through the eye hole and you can tell him like looking in and looking around there. And he turns back around and goes, yeah, there doesn't appear to be any reason to go in there. As a matter of fact, I know that there is reason not to go in there.
What is the reason not to go in there?
Yeah.
Certain death.
Not certain death. No. But it is a trap. There's the floor is fake and it will drop you in a pit and it will lock you in there for at least a day.
Ooh, sweet.
Well,
Oh, shit.
alrighty then.
Unless we prop it from settlement. Oh, wait a second. Can we prop it from trapping us for a day
Dimension door.
and check to see if there's any goodies down there?
We have a flying sneaky person.
Fine, sneaky.
We do have flying sneaky.
Well, I could help you with that task, which quite honestly would be a waste of my efforts. But I am obliged to offer you one free task of your choice
Nope, not this.
that I
We're
would
not waiting.
that I would happily provide to you. At which point I shall depart your presence. But since you have helped me, I am obliged to help you.
Okay.
However, note that I cannot leave this area unless I am within my bottle or within my
How many star gems do we have?
4 of the 5.
Or yeah.
Who's
Should we
got
be
the
like-
fourth? Who's got the fourth one? Because I've only got 3 listed in my inventory, and I don't remember if that's because somebody else has one or if because
I have to still
um,
create it. You should have all 4.
okay.
Unless someone knows or thinks differently. But I believe you have all 4 of them. They trust you for some reason.
Yeah, they do.
Go figure.
Highest probability of not dying.
Redrith would gesture to the openings up here and say, where did those go?
That will take you to the great ballroom of Chininskamba. It was a very festive place at one time, but of course, those days are long, long gone.
Well, should we go check out the ballroom? I'm okay with not
Sure.
going to the certain to die place. So
Ask him if he knows anything about the star
Sure.
gems.
Yeah. Fark will ask him if he knows about the star gems of Mokular.
Star gems? Gems of the stars?
Redrith won't because he's already walking to the ballroom.
Star gems? Gems of the stars? This makes little sense to me, to El Tarifa. I know not of such things.
Okay.
I was the major domo to Chininskamba. It is for him that I served, and not only what was in his survey was in my purview.
And what did he refer to himself as?
El Tarifa.
Was that his name or his title?
Good
So he was
question.
he was a major something or other to
Well, Major Domo. So presuming
Major
that's his
Domo.
title, El Tarifa probably is his name.
got it. Okay.
Well, then again, you know, a lot of those royalties have, you know, multiple titles, you know.
Prince Chuckles is first.
Yeah. Duke of this, Earl of that, Monsignor to something else. So actually, I'm going to suggest, since we're about halfway through our session, that we take our 15-minute break right now. I need to stretch my
Sounds like a
legs
good
and
idea.
visit the little boys' room. Y'all can think
Very
about
good.
what you want to do next. I presume we're going to want to explore the ballroom that El Tarifa just referred to.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, and we'll meet back here at 20 to the hour.
Right up.
All right, so we're back from break, and the little aerial dude just pretty much told you that the big room beyond is some kind of ballroom, or at least was, which doesn't seem too out of place for the nature of these rooms. And presumably, even if you do want to go to the room beyond the carving, you're going to need to find another way in, unless you're sending in Mizram in cat form.
Toss him through the door.
More like the eyeball.
Right, eyeball.
And it'd still be a little bit of a tight fit for him. You'd have to squeeze his way through. Oh, you know, there's a damn good cat video out of that if he decides to go. All right, so where are we all going? Or what are we doing? Presuming you guys are not quite ready for a break yet. In-game break, I mean.
I still have spell
Yeah, we
slots,
were
so
heading to the
I'm good.
ballroom.
So yeah, ballroom.
Okay, so 2 more doors there. These don't seem nearly as ornate and complex as the door that confounded you earlier. So are you going to engage in the manual task of opening that door, Redrith, or are you going to wait for someone else to step up there?
The one that I'm at right now. No, well, those are open doorways, right?
No, they're doors. Again, the maps,
okay.
the maps that I base these on actually did not show the doors, so I didn't put them in until after I got into the game and realized that there were supposed to be doors there. I guess I could have still put another layer on it, but I didn't get a chance to do that.
Okay. Then I would definitely go up and attempt the door handle for the nearest door.
Okay. These doors, as I said, do not appear to be nearly as complicated. Simple latch mechanism seems to respond normally. And you can go ahead and push the door open if you wish.
Absolutely.
All right,
I will
so-
push it and step through.
And presumably you have your dancing lights with you, correct? Or at least one
Absolutely. I will shove a couple of them ahead, through me or through ahead of me. I'll say I've got a total of 5. 3 will go through the door, 2 will stay in the room behind.
Well, if you're sending them in ahead of you, you might not want to step in quite yet.
Sorry, I was gone for a while. The woman
Okay.
in the house was choosing movies like she was trying to select fine wine. Ugh.
My wife can be like that at times. All right, so Redrith just stepped into the room, or actually put the dancing lights in there. And by pushing the dancing lights in there, you are privy to the following. As soon as any light enters this enormous room, Long hanging crystals that extend from the ceiling reflect it, giving full illumination. The roof reaches 50 feet above the highly polished floor, and the walls are heavily adorned with frescoes of dancing nymphs, satyrs, and other legendary beasts.
Oh yeah.
To the right, is a dais raised 6 feet above the floor and topped with a stonework screen that extends to the ceiling. A small set of stairs to the left and right of the dais connects to the main floor. 3 doors open in the opposite wall. So in this case, the opposite side is indeed open.
I arrange my lights kind of like that.
Okay. So keep in mind that right side there, that dais is about 10 feet above the rest of the floor.
Okay. So now you said that there are crystals hanging down from the ceiling, and so
Mhm.
they help light up the entire room.
Yeah, they're basically pulling the light from the dancing lights and reflecting it throughout the room.
I'll just kind of give a whoa. Okay.
And actually, hold on, let's see.
And then I will step in and go up towards the dais. And climb the stairs up to the dais itself to get a good look at the whole room. My goal will be to do that kind of a thing.
All right, so actually, I'm going to have to adjust this first. Because as soon as you step into the room, Redreth, you suddenly start hearing music playing, coming from somewhere above or around the dais that you were heading towards. At this point, it just
Cool.
seems to be,
I like a good tune.
it just seems to be maybe one instrument playing a simple melody.
I will head, I'm still going to head right up to the dais. That seems like the best place to have a vantage point on everything in the room.
Okay. And needless to
Can
say, Mizram and
any-
Kaylee, you can hear the music.
Okay, that was my question. All right. So what happens if I float into the room?
As soon as you step into the room, you hear a second instrument add into the fold. So now there are 2 instruments playing harmonically together in some kind of duet.
As I
Okay.
climb up to the top of the steps, do I see anything on the dais?
You see nothing, but you feel pretty clearly that the music is coming from behind the screen that extends to the ceiling on the eastern wall.
Okay.
And I personally like music, so when I hear that she steps in and something else happens, I'm going to step into, because I want to add another layer to the dance.
I am going to go away. Just kind of peek through doorways without really touching anything. Doors.
Mark's gonna let Haig and Redrith check out the ballroom.
You need to go in through the doorways.
And you said that the music appears to be coming from behind this wall?
Correct.
Okay. Redrith will go up and examine the corner of the 2 walls to see if there is any falseness, kind of wrapping on the south wall a bit and then wrapping on the east wall a bit.
All right. There we go. Okay, hold on. Now that Now that Haig has finally stepped into the room, a third instrument is now added to the chorus. The tempo has picked up a bit. And unusually enough, as Haig enters the room, all three of you notice that the floor starts shifting. Mostly in line with your steps, but also somewhat to the beat of the music. And it's not significant enough, but it definitely is enough at this point that your footing is being affected. So, Kaylee, I have to ask, are you flying or are you walking?
I have not actually touched the floor yet of this room.
Okay. That does not matter in terms of the events that you have perceived. It does affect whether or not you are sure-footed and can stand upright. And as I said, at this point, it doesn't seem to be too bad, but you definitely can tell that, or the other two can definitely tell that, hey, wait a minute, what's up with this floor?
It's being magical, apparently, and doing strange magic-y things. That's very interesting. And it's affecting the floor of the dais as well?
Yep.
Good thing I can fly. All right. So this opening here.
And you can tell that they're actually separately mounted because the dais is not necessarily remaining parallel with the main floor. So it seems to respond somewhat to Redreth's motions independently of what Haig is doing, and the lower floor seems to respond to Haig independently of what Redreth is doing.
Okay.
But apparently Redreth was not enough to cause either of them to move by themselves.
Okay. This doorway here that I'm at, is it an open doorway or is there actually like enormous doors?
Actually, it's open. No doors. It's a large open opening.
Okay. And what do I see?
An empty room, except for the carving of the skull that's now on the left-hand wall for you.
Okay. So this is the room that the creature from the lamp described to us as no pointing going through. Okay.
He actually went a step further and said there's a reason not to go in there.
Right. If I come over, here, can I see if there's, any warning on this wall corresponding to the warning from the other side?
Yeah, and to be clear, he said there was a reason not to go into this room that we're in.
No, sorry, the room I'm looking at.
No, she's checking out or looking into the room that you're supposedly not supposed to go into.
The one with the trap door.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Very good.
I'm trying to see if perhaps it's the mostly blocked doorway between the two that is the trigger for the traps, because if there is a warning on this side, the side that I'm looking at, as well as a warning on the side where that we came in on, maybe it's not entering the room that triggers the trap.
Well, there is no carving or there is no warning on the inside of that wall. There does seem to be an identical carving of the skull, but there is no warning engraved on this side.
Okay. In which case, the room itself probably is trapped and may or may not trigger if somebody were to step through on this side. Unless somebody else wants to describe what they're doing, I'm going to continue before I forget my question.
Go ahead.
Redrith has made his way to the corner of the walls and was examining the wall where the music's coming from. That has him curious.
Yep.
I am large, tall, and have a high center of gravity, so I'm just protecting my footing on the shifting ground.
Okay. But you're pretty much staying at that corner right now, or are you trying to investigate the length of the wall or the screen?
I'm kind of letting them do this.
I'm looking at the joint of the wall to see if I can tell a difference between the two walls. Is the one wood and this one stone, or that kind of thing?
No, they're both made out of stone, but there is definitely a slightly different construction to the wall on the east side. It's a lot smoother. It does seem to be more lightweight. You'd think it might even be some kind of volcanic pumice or something, but it's very smooth. But you also notice that whereas so the lights are reflecting through the crystals on the ceiling from the dancing lights, right? And as the lights shine through the crystal and land on different parts of the room, they land in blurry patches. So, bright in the center, and as it gets out, the light dims and gets fuzzy and whatnot. However, wherever the light lands on the screen on the eastern wall, the light is very sharp and defined. And, it goes out from the center and then suddenly is just black. It's a very, very sharp delineation. There's definitely something different about the eastern wall, but as far as you can tell, it does not move, come down, or have any egress.
There seems to be a lot of magic going on around me, so I'm gonna settle down right against the wall there in the corner and take the time it costs to start casting detect magic.
Okay.
If the group decides to move on, I will stop, but otherwise, he's just curious about all of what's going on in this room. So I'm going to start the ritual, which is going to be 10 minutes.
Okay.
And Dan, you're still unmuted, just so you know.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Anyone else?
Bark's just waiting for a call to action, so he's just waiting to see what everybody else does.
What about your brother, though, who's currently kind of sitting there, kind of shifting his weight back and forth to try to keep standing up?
Well, he hasn't told me he's in danger, so I'm watching him, but I'm not going to go in the room.
All right. What about Fekish and Miz? What are you two doing?
I'm watching it all unfold.
Well, you can't really see much, but you can hear the music playing and getting louder.
My wife just called me a looky-loo.
You're usually much more a man of action.
Well, I'm a cleric. I'm more of a help out when needed.
I am the watcher. I will not get involved. I maintain balance. All right. So at this point where you've moved yourself to, you can see that the floor is kind of shifting a bit, and it kind of looks fun. Doesn't look quite dangerous.
What is the purpose of the trap? This is what I'm thinking, guys.
Incite dancing.
Incite dancing. I'm going to try dancing.
Okay.
Incite dancing. Very good. Good call.
So you're going to dance across the floor?
I'm just going to start dancing and see what happens.
Well, The flow of the room definitely suggests a certain tempo. If you try to dance to something in a manner or beat that isn't consistent with what you're hearing, you're going to pretty much fall flat on your face. But if you stay
Well,
in
I'm-
tempo with the music, the floor seems to move naturally in rhythm with you and moves exactly where you seem to need it to be. And interesting enough, you seem to feel a lot more stable while you're dancing on this floor.
Dude, you're a genius.
Good job, Albie.
Thank you.
Inside
Meanwhile-
dancing. It is a ballroom.
And unfortunately, Albie doesn't have any more inspiration points for me to give him. So I'm going to have to give him a quest
just-
reward. Both
Dude,
for
that's-
that and the
yeah.
latch.
So as I go by Alex flying in the air, I give this little ballet flutter.
Oh, there's a picture.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The mage doing a
So-
pirouette.
Yeah. No, a giant Goliath doing a pirouette.
Oh, okay. Even better.
Yeah.
Okay, so this big empty looking trapped room, I would like to
The one you're looking
um,
into or the one you're floating over?
the one I'm looking into. I would
Okay.
like to attempt to without actually entering it, I would like to see if I can identify anything that might be like a physical type trap trigger or an obvious sensor of magical design.
Okay, so go ahead and roll your investigation check. Redreth, you're still casting your detect magic, right?
Correct. That's a 10-minute spell, so I'll be sitting there for a little while.
Okay. So, but you're not stopping because you noticed that Haig started dancing.
I don't notice it because the music is playing and I'm right next to where the music's coming from. So it's
That's
too
true.
loud
And
where
you're,
I'm
and
at.
you're probably also concentrating on casting the spell. So,
And I'm
And
10
at this
feet
point,
above
I've-
everybody else. I'm 10 feet above everybody else, and I'm sitting in the back corner, so I probably can't even see them.
well, you know, you probably still see his head bobbing up and down over the dais.
And at this point, I'm not like trying to go anywhere. I'm just dancing around the room because I've really owned it.
Yep. It's like, oh, this is fun. And yeah,
Yeah.
you can kind of, leverage the floor and kind of make use of it to give you some momentum. So, your leap's a little higher and you can spin a little longer. You want to do a few break dancing routines. The polished floor is definitely ready for it. Throw out a head spin or whatever else.
I'm starting to look like Nancy Kerrigan on the ice. Or no, who's Yamaguchi? Christy Yamaguchi.
Oh, yeah, you could do
Oh,
that.
I was gonna say,
Triple.
are we gonna be Tanya Harding and go and whack out Kaoli's knee or something?
No, I want
well-
I want the cleric to go in there doing the babushka.
Right.
All right, so it's just the two of you in there on the floor at the moment. Kaoli, you do not detect anything unusual from that room. You don't see any kind of obvious trigger mechanism or of the like.
Okay.
Goliath is gliding across the floor,
Mm-hmm.
looking quite actually the motion of the floor enhances your skills. So even if you're not a skilled dancer, you kind of look like you know what you're doing. And I would presume your brother, yeah, he should be able to see you looking on, and your brother, he's got to be wondering, wait a minute, I didn't know you could dance that good. What the hell are you doing? Why didn't you show me this before?
Wow.
Not
Well,
quite
he's been a
realizing that it's
ballerina.
the motion of the room that's making it more beneficial to be dancing around.
I'm gonna say in Goliath.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, what'd you say, Goliath?
Or was it unintelligible to the rest of us?
Oh, unintelligible to the rest of you. I'm like so enthralled with the fact that I'm so light on my feet right now because my deck is usually awful. And I'm like, dude, I'm like so excited that I've never been able to do anything like this before. I'm like, try it.
Yeah, that's true. Considering how heavy you guys are, you have a sense of nimbleness right now that is very unfamiliar.
Yes, grace would not be one of your strong suits.
Nope, but at the moment it is.
No. No, it would not. And yeah, I'm like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, Varric will walk into the room and try and go over to his brother, dancing.
You're going to dance over to him?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you step onto the floor, a fourth instrument gets added to the chorus. The tempo speeds up a little bit more, and the motion of the floor gets to be a little bit more intense. So you don't quite notice it, but your brother absolutely does. It's like, oh, okay, it's going to get more fun. So it's kind of like adding another person to the trampoline.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, the floor very much feels like a trampoline with several people on it.
Interesting.
To the point that, Kaylee, you're occasionally feeling the floor tap up against your feet.
Okay.
Miz, were you able to make it back in? Is your headset working now? Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. I'm gonna presume you can hear me.
Am I muted?
Nope, I hear you. Miz sent out a
Sorry.
message saying he's having problems with the other headset or Zoom, so.
Well, I was worried about all the construction I'm doing. So I'm mute again.
Let's see. I guess I'll put it in Discord. That'll be the most likely place for him to see it. All right. So we've got the two Goliaths dancing on the floor, right? Is that correct? I'm moving Varric up to
Yes, sir.
the ballroom. And at this point, your guys are enjoying the dancing. Kaylee's investigating, and the Dragonborn and Panther are kind of just amusing. So time passes. Redrith is able to
Did you
complete his spell.
Did you get my question?
No, I didn't. Here we go. What's the description of the trap creature? Oh, he said it was a pit that will lock you in for a day.
Okay. In that case, Kaylee is going to get the attention of the dancing Goliaths and attempt to communicate to them that she would like them to be sort of on alert as she flies into this other room, just in case something happens when she flies in.
Well,
Yeah, I guess I'll follow and I'll.
I was going to say, I would say that it's not much of a role or determination to say that you guys do notice her. Question is whether or not you choose to acknowledge her at the moment, or you're just having too much fun.
Yeah.
I guess I'll kind of follow
Pretty
along,
fun.
but I'll like try to dance in place, I guess. At this point, I would wager to say, for the sake of the game, Varric, would you join me? And I put my arm on your shoulder and grab your other hand, and we can waltz together on our way
There
over
it
there.
is. The waltzing Goliath.
Crack on, good boy. And I'll take your hand.
All right, so
I'm going to bow to him. I'm going to bow to him like I'm accepting the dance.
Awesome.
And then,
yeah,
grab his hand and.
I'm having funky images from Ready Player One and the ballroom scene there.
Yeah, I'd be about right.
So if they are sort of indicating that they're coming over so they can at least attempt to pay attention while they dance, just in case something happens, then when they get over to where they should be able to pay some attention to what's happening
in
in the
if
room I'm
necessary.
about to enter. I will enter the room without actually touching the ground. I just want to fly.
Like I said,
Just flying is fun.
okay, so once you go into the room, yeah, that floor is not shifting anymore, so you can pretty much keep yourself clear without a problem. About the time that you enter in the room, Redreth's spell finishes casting, and though the spell goes off, there is no magic in the room, Redreth. You don't
So
see
even
any-
looking at the shifting floor and everything, there's no magic?
Nope.
Hmm. Well, Redreth will will make his way up to the edge so he can see everybody and that's in the room, and he'll say whatever it is, it's not magical here in the room, and the music is coming from there, and he'll point behind him to where the wall is.
And what I would point out, you probably do notice, standing on the edge of the dais at this point and being very curious about what the hell is going on with this floor if this isn't magical. You detect what you would guess to be the sound of springs opening and closing. So yeah, as Albie mentioned, it seems improbable and highly impressive, but this is a mechanical trap or mechanism. And though that may explain the floor, it certainly doesn't explain the music.
I don't know what to do then.
Meanwhile, Kaoli in the other room, basically as mentioned before, this room appears empty with the exception of the brown stain on the wall just slightly above the floor on the west side.
And just to be clear, the ballroom itself is completely empty?
The floor is, yes.
Okay. Is there's stuff hanging on the walls or anything like that?
Not stuff hanging, but it did describe, let me make sure I use the same wording. They were like, let's see. The walls are heavily adorned with frescoes of dancing nymphs, satyrs, and legendary beasts.
Okay.
And my apologies, the dais is only 6 feet above the floor, not 10. So you can clearly see everyone's torso. I think we may have lost Ms. I think we may have lost Ms. or at least in
I
the
hope there's
audio.
not a smell.
Well, it shows him still logged
That's me.
into the game, but he mentioned that he's having issues with Zoom, so and I don't see him in Zoom anymore. So I know it does show him here, but not hearing from him. Ms. Oh, there we go.
Oh, that was me.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say the infamous kitty.
I'm seeing Ms. Room on my
Yeah, I
logged
see.
in but I don't. He's showing in Zoom.
Yeah, I see him in Zoom, but and he's unmuted, but he's not responding to us. And he did mention that he's said, sorry, not
Technical
chatting, having a
difficulty.
lot of headset troubles with Zoom.
Oh, I thought he said earlier that he had fallen asleep.
Must have been a rough day for him.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I misheard him, but
We know he's here in spirit.
Okay, so I fly into this room, and I'm keeping a good foot off the floor.
Okay.
Anything happen when I cross the threshold?
Nope, nothing that you are aware of.
Okay.
That's not a no.
Correct.
You guys are getting to know me a little too well. Don't say no unless you mean no. Don't say yes unless you mean yes.
Um, I'm gonna take.
I'm going to take it upon myself to move Miz up to the edge of the room because even if he doesn't want to get on the floor, I'm sure he wants to watch.
Oh yeah, he'd be absolutely entertained by it. He'd just be sitting at the edge of the dance floor, just like watching everyone and having having a kitty chuckle.
Yep.
Because
I'm actually even debating whether or not he'd come up behind Albie and kind of like push him out.
push
Like, get on
Albie
there.
out the door. Get out there, entertain me.
Well, that would be a Miz thing, you know.
That
Yes.
absolutely would be. Okay, I am going to take. I'm gonna take something that I can pretend is a 10-foot pole, or at least a 5-foot pole. Dropped it in the party sheet so that we could do some selling, but we haven't actually done that, so I'm probably carrying it still. My mundane longbow, I'm going to take it and I am going to tap the floor with it.
Ooh, getting risque, are we?
Not the magic one, just the mundane one that we haven't taken the time to
you're trying
actually
to set
sell.
off. You're still trying to set off what you believe is a trap.
I am trying to set off what I believe is a trap, but I believe the Goliath brothers have moved over somewhat, so they can sort of see into the room that I'm flying in.
Yeah, but we're waltzing, so we're spinning a little.
You're only sort of paying attention, but you're over there. You'll probably notice slightly more quickly than if you couldn't see me at all if something happens. Probably.
Agreed.
We're ready to be reactionary.
Yes.
All right, so Kelly is hovering about a foot above the floor in that other chamber, and she's tapping on the floor with her longbow, and nothing appears to be happening.
Okay. So I am suspecting that we have to if the floor is going to drop out from under someone from entering from this side, going to have to be significantly more weight than just, poke it with a something.
Hey, you, big guy, come here.
No. Let's see. Okay. Alex is having difficulty recalling, but I'm sure Kayla Lee could probably name the party members off the top of her head. Who does she know has teleportation magic?
I don't think anyone has full teleportation, but Redreth.
No, but like Misty Step or
yeah,
Dimension
two
Door
of you
count.
have. Two of them have Misty Step.
2 Misty Steps and a Dimension Door.
Varric has Misty
Okay.
Step as well.
Okay, so Varric has Misty Step, and then Redreth has Misty Step and Dimension Door.
Yeah.
Okay, and nobody else has demonstrated any capacity for teleportation that Kaoli has noticed. All right. In that case, this is gonna look a little weird, but Kaoli is gonna come and she's gonna fly over to Red Dress and without really using very many words, she's going to basically ask him to come with her into this other room
You're
and
asking
attempt to
Barrick?
set off the trap.
You're asking Barrick to do that?
No, Red Dress.
Oh, okay.
Because she has a
Personally,
chance of carrying Red Dress.
Are you flying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Red Dress makes a gesture and floats into the air himself.
Okay.
Sweet. I'm going to mention to my brother, I think this is the point of this room, and I'm ready to travel to the other area.
Red Dress, before you finalize that,
Agreed.
fly and dancing lights are both concentration.
Fly is more important.
also
Actually, detect magic was
would have dropped the
concentration.
light. Okay.
Okay. Well, that's fine. That's fine. I can light a
So,
torch. I actually do still have torches.
So,
The point being
when
that
he
the
switched
Goliaths
and the
are
lights went out-
dancing in the dark now.
Yeah, but by Jove, I believe this is the only
Everybody's
trap in
just
the room.
dancing in the dark. Sorry, couldn't resist.
But yeah,
Shall we
definitely.
take our leave, brother? Pepper.
So Red Dress, you're
So-
gonna fly over and join me in this room, and we can attempt to set off this trap without actually trapping ourselves in there.
Sounds good.
Tracking with me, Maddie?
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. So are you both flying or hovering?
Correct. We're
Okay.
both hovering.
All right. And the
I
brothers,
believe
meanwhile,
the
have danced
plan-
their way across the floor.
I believe the plan now is, or at least this was Kaoli's plan, is that once we are both in the room and both capable of not touching the ground, we are going, at least one of us has to touch the ground and see if that sets off the trap, while remaining in close proximity so that we can stick together and rescue each other and, not get trapped.
Do we go in towards the middle or do we stay near the edge?
That will be up to you. Kaoli has no real preference on whether
I
we
think probably
attempt to set
staying
it
near
off
the
in
edge.
here.
So just in case
Okay.
we need to do something reacting quick, probably makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one with the teleportation magic, so it's whatever you feel more comfortable with for knowing how to escape.
She's at your
Right.
mercy.
All right. So basically keep flying, but go down and basically bump myself off the floor.
Yeah, and just make use of the flight magic to lower yourself carefully in place until the trap sets off, and with the intention of then using the flight magic to not slide with the floor that drops out from under you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Keith, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Right where we're at, near the edge of the room, lowering down till we're actually resting on the floor, but maintaining the flight.
Putting enough weight on the floor that it could theoretically trigger a trap, like a weight-based pressure trap, but not actually losing the flight.
Completely understood. That being said, it doesn't seem to have any effect in the current position where you two are located. So are you going to move about the room trying it, or just one spot and you're content?
Oh, Kaoli is curious now as to exactly where the trigger for this trap is, and she has a sneaking suspicion where at least one trigger point might be.
Okay.
Show me the path that you're taking or that you're trying.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll pretty much follow you. So
So she plans to end up by the skull. And I'm debating whether she's gonna just cut straight across, or if she's gonna take the long way and go around the edge, or the even longer way and go around the long edge. But I think what she's going to do is she's going to actually fly over to here and wait for Redreth to join her, and then we'll try this wait thing again over by the carving of the skull, because that's most likely to be the spot to set off the trap based on the warning on the other side of the wall.
Okay. So Redrith, are you flying over there?
Just to the north over.
Or are you bouncing over there?
I'll float over there and then lower myself down to touch the floor.
Okay. So at this point, you're on the floor. Kaylee, you're still hovering, correct?
I'm hovering at this point. When he lowers himself, I will lower myself to touch or just almost touch the floor, so that I'm like just not, but I'm not putting any weight on it.
All right, but Redrith, you are putting weight on the floor, correct?
Yep.
But still ready to maintain flight.
Correct.
Okay. So you put weight on the floor and nothing seems to happen. You seem to be supported. Oh, by the way, what did you do with the aerial servant? You said he had to go back to the bottle if you wanted to take him with you.
I thought it meant he had to stay in the entire, that he couldn't leave this building. I didn't
No,
realize it was the room.
He can't leave that room that you found him in.
Oh,
And maybe
I don't know.
room
I wasn't
beyond the
holding. I wasn't
collapsed wall,
holding the
but-
bottle, so whoever was holding the bottle would have to deal with that.
Yeah,
lamp. So that would be Varric.
Varric would have brought the lamp and had the creature go back inside.
Yep. So yeah, El Tarifa is in the lamp in your possession then.
Okay. Well, Kelly is going to carefully and slowly add her weight to the floor. Again, ready to fly should the floor attempt to drop out from under her or anything like that. And if that's not good enough, she's gonna take a half a step forward.
All right. Well, you step on the floor. You're able to stand a light on it, and you're able to rest your full weight on it without any impact. So which direction are you going to step?
Away from the wall.
So straight to the west?
Yep.
Okay. You take a step, move slightly to the west, and nothing seems to happen.
This is like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you've got to stick your hand into the light for the gate to come flying across and spear you.
Yep.
It could be.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what she's thinking at this point. And she's gonna go back to the wall. And
I'm being more reminded. Go ahead.
she's gonna peer through and whistle to get Mizram's attention.
I was being more reminded of the floor that dropped out underneath you, except for underneath the certain symbols. I think that's in Crusade, Last Crusade.
Yep.
Yes.
But Jehovah starts with an I.
Mhm.
So I don't think we have Mizram.
No, I think we unfortunately
Uh,
lost him.
Hopefully
Yeah.
you guys
There
can
he
hear
is.
me now.
Yes, we can.
Hello.
Yes!
Oh,
back.
the problems I had.
Oh, glad you made it back, man.
Thank
So-
you, thank you.
Have
you
you
gonna
been
say,
able
Alex?
to hear us and concentrate, or did you need us to do a recap?
I missed a huge chunk of the beginning when we came back from the break, and then I missed bits in between. I heard the last 5 minutes.
Okay,
Right,
so
so we
you've heard
can.
how Redreth and I are exploring this room that supposedly has a pit trap.
Yes.
But apparently you missed
so-
the dancing Goliaths.
They're still dancing.
I caught just the beginning as you mentioned it, and then I lost all sound.
Ah.
Oh, all right.
We were
You
basically
were-
debating whether or not you were going to push Fekish out onto the dance floor.
Ah.
Like, you go dance with the rest of them.
Which we haven't figured out the source of the music, but we have Redreth was able to determine that the floor, the shifting of the floor is apparently mechanical.
Oh. Okay.
But we haven't figured out. Nobody's figured out what's up with the music. It is not magical. At least not with a source that he could see with his detect magic inside that ballroom. So Kaeli is on the other side of the wall with the skull in it and the warning death to all who enter here. And she's just whistled to catch your attention.
Oh, okay. I will go to investigate.
And she beckons you to come through the wall.
I start pouring at the wall. Meow.
And she gives you a gesture like, just come walk to me and I'll catch you. Like, come here and let me pick you up, basically.
I will turn into a weasel then, so I'm easier to carry.
Yeah, you'll fit a lot
Easier to
better
carry
through
and
the-
easier to fit through the skull.
Yes.
Let me reshape myself.
Okay.
Shape shifting.
I may have to cancel this one first.
Yeah.
So now you
That-
get to change yourself. Now in tune with the D&D movie, you get to change yourself into an owlbear too, right?
Keith, can I be an owlbear?
Well, I saw
I'm
speculation
joking,
in comments on a review video that that the druid was included largely because the druid was representing the GM's girlfriend who gets special accommodations just so she'll stay at the table. I have not seen the movie myself, but I did see a mostly spoiler-free review of it, and that was one of the comments was the druid, because one of the critiques the guy had was that the druid seemed kind of extraneous, but then someone explained it. Well, yeah, but each of the characters is played by a player, and that's the player of the druid's character.
It was a lot of fun. I really liked the movie. I've seen it twice.
I
so.
really want to go see it, but I gotta scrape up the money to for a minimum of 3 tickets.
Sounds like you gotta run a few more D&D games.
Yep.
I gotta run a few more D&D games, or go out door dashing and bring in some cash that way. But yeah, anyway, so yes, Mizram the Weasel is coming through the skull door with the warning.
Well, through the eye socket, one of the eye sockets, or the nose if you prefer.
As you're gesturing for him to come through, I say I feel compelled to mention that Dimension Door only works with 2 people.
Okay,
So,
well then Kaoli is going to float back and let you catch him, and she's going to hover, a good, 18 inches off the floor.
You see me hold my little weasel arms up to you like a little toddler ready to be picked up.
Right.
Through
I'll say, okay.
through the skull carpet.
Okay, let's do this.
All right, so the weasel runs through the eye socket, pops out. Who's catching him? Redreth?
Redreth.
Okay, he hops out into, I guess, Redreth's shoulder. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
Probably have to step in the middle of the room would be my guess, or something like that. Or tie a rope around somebody and let them actually walk rather than doing something with flight.
Right.
Also, I've only got 10 minutes on the flight spell, so depending on how much time we stay in here, I do plan to be back over into this room before the 10 minutes is up.
Probably a good call.
That's I've also, I've already had to touch down on the dance floor once to renew the ring.
But at this point, you're both putting weight on the floor, correct?
No, I am not.
You're not, but Redreth is.
I am.
I'm 18
Yep.
inches above.
And you're also carrying Mizram in weasel form.
Yep.
Who just crawled through the skull.
Yep. So yeah, nothing changes. Nothing happens.
Then Redreth will just shrug and say, well, I guess I don't know how to trigger this, and then head over to the room here and hold the flying spell in case Kaoli has other ideas. But
Kaoli's gonna she's still about 18 inches over the floor at this point, but she's going to ask Redreth to set the weasel down and
okay,
right in the middle.
I'll set you, Mizram, right there. Oops, right in the room so you're safe. And then, all right.
Okay,
and then we're gonna do in the smack dab in the center of the room. We're gonna do the slowly add weight without losing the flight, and see what happens.
All right, so Kaoli, I'm going to presume that you're pretty much taking the lead here because Redreth did say that he was kind of following you.
Yep.
And you are putting at least some weight on the floor, right?
Yep.
So what you realize by advancing from the right side to the left, as you pass the middle of the floor, it quickly becomes apparent that the whole floor is counterbalanced on a hinge that runs north to south through the center of the floor. If you proceed any further, the whole floor will tip to the left and you will be likely dropped down, or the intent is for whoever's on it to be dropped down below. Where it goes, you don't know. But as you move forward, you can tell that your weight is having more of an impact the further you go past the center.
Interesting. Okay.
A mechanical trap.
Mechanical traps are cool, and this would explain there's not really much of a trigger to find unless you're actually putting weight on the floor and paying attention.
Yep.
All right.
And
So at
obviously-
this point,
And
at
obviously,
this point, I'm
the brown stain on the wall is meant to draw your attention or bring you to the far side where your weight will have the most impact.
yeah.
Well, there were monkeys
it-
in this room at one point.
Yes, they probably were, because it certainly
But
looks
were
like
they?
a
But
a
it
stain
seems
of that kind.
it seems that they weren't throwing flaming monkey poo because there's no scorch marks along with the brown.
No, no scorch marks. We were just referring to what the stain looks like.
All right. So at this point, Kayla is going to turn to Redreth with an expression of, "Shall we continue and see what's underneath?"
Head right over towards the wall where we'll have the most impact. If the pivot's in the middle, then we just need to put a little bit of weight on it, and the whole floor should move.
Yep.
The question is, if it's spring loaded, so it comes over fast, then we may take damage in the process.
Yep.
The brothers can catch it.
Oh, okay. Only if you are down in the pit.
Oh, nope, not doing that.
What's the puzzle?
We have figured out how to trigger the trap. Now we're trying to decide exactly the best method with which to trigger the trap so that we can see and verify for ourselves that there is nothing interesting in the pit underneath.
How can you determine how heavy you think the floor is on the pivot?
We could
Maybe we
also
can just hold it up,
stand
'cause you
right
guys can
there.
slide back out. If we can hold up the edge by the edge of the room, if we're strong enough, or prop it so that way it doesn't pivot back down, you guys can fly right out of the hole.
We could also stand on the edge right there, and it'd be nice if we had a sandbag or something. You could just throw it in the room and see that. But I'm okay pushing down a little bit on the floor here to see what happens.
Yeah, I'd like to push a little and see if we can at least get it to give and get a sense of, is it spring loaded? Does it kind of just fly around in a 360-degree circle or 180-degree circle or what?
To quote Austin Powers, I too like to live dangerously.
It's not
So
my
I
bag,
think-
baby.
I think what we're gonna do is we're basically gonna bounce on the end and see how the floor reacts.
Both at the same time. Both at the same time.
Yeah, I think we do it. We do it together at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're going from dancing to teeter-totter? Or you guys are on the same side?
No, we're on the same side. Because Kayla Lou's got questions about, well, this is a mechanical trap and we know the hinge is in the middle, but exactly how is it assembled? And can we just make it wiggle? Is it spring loaded? Does it flip itself 180? Does it flip itself 100 or 360, to reset? So she's just curious. So yeah, Redreth and I are going to time it, and we're going to basically bounce on the end and see what the floor does.
Okay. And as you bounce on the end, the floor does give way. It tilts down. A lot easier at this far end of the pivot. You can see that there's a floor below briefly. It doesn't appear to be spiked or anything like that. You don't see anything moving around or anything else like that. But as soon as you take your weight off the floor, it comes back up into position.
Okay. Okay.
And
And-
it doesn't appear to quite be spring loaded, but it does come back pretty quickly. It does seem to be counterbalanced rather well.
Okay. Okay. So at this point, Kayla is thinking that it is time to recruit the Goliath to help prop it up so that we can explore. without having to waste a spell to get us out. And not that the Goliaths necessarily have to maintain a hold on it, just that we'll need their strength to help us prop it up. But that's just in her head. She hasn't actually said anything about it yet. She's just gonna kind of look at Redreth with a like, okay, now what?
All right. So what is your max weight for each of the Goliaths that they can not necessarily move, but press? Crap. Term.
A lot more for their strength score than any of the rest of us.
Yes, that I'm aware of. Where the heck?
Yeah, it's on our character sheet somewhere. And again, I'm kicked out of game, so I can't look it up quickly.
I'm pretty sure it's an inventory. All right, so let's see. All right, lift, push, drag for Haig is 1,020. And for Varric, that's 1,080. So 2,100 between the two of you. That's pretty substantial. And actually, yeah, that's enough. So once they bounce on the floor and it comes up, you're able to get your hands on it. And it's a little slippery at first, but yeah, so let's go ahead and do an athletic check for both of you. Actually, neither one of you can roll, can you?
Yeah, again, I'm kicked out. I can do
No.
a D20.
No, I'll do it. I can do it from here.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, so I'll start with Haig. Skills, athletics. Varric. Skills. Oh, nice. All right, you both easily rolled over 20, so you're able to easily, gracefully, impressively grab hold of the edge of the stone floor and hold it propped open.
All right, then we will go down there and see what we can find. I mean, the lamp creature led us to believe that there was absolutely nothing down there, but that doesn't mean that there aren't, remains of creatures and whatever they were carrying on them down there that we could investigate. So what do we find down there?
What you find down there seems to be basically an empty pit and a small 4-footish wide passage leading to the southwest.
Ooh.
It is not big enough for the Goliaths.
Right, but that's still, worth investigating. Not without.
And we have a weasel that could probably make it down there too.
Uh-huh.
Not big enough for the glass to walk through, or period.
No, the Goliaths would probably get stuck in that tunnel. It's rough hewn. It's not even. There are probably a few points where the Goliaths would not be able to pass.
Yeah, you might be able to, fit through that initial opening by like crawling or something, but doesn't sound like you should rely on being able to get through everywhere.
Nope.
Taylor is of the opinion that we should report to the rest of the group and let them know what we found, but that's just the scout in her.
Quick question. Are both of you down there or just you, Kaoli?
I don't know. That's a question for Redreth.
Did you follow her, Redreth? Jim, there you go.
Yeah, I would have floated down if she was there, mostly because if something happened and the door closed, I wanted to be able to dimension door us out.
Okay. Right now the Goliaths are holding the door open.
The floor open.
Floor.
Don't mean
yeah.
to be semantical,
Ceiling.
but just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Well, I mean, for where we are down, looking at this passageway, it's more like ceiling at this point.
Mm.
They're holding the ceiling open.
From your perspective,
So-
it's a ceiling.
And or you could call it a trap door, in which case it's still a door.
It's a pretty big trap door.
Yeah.
It's a stone floor, no less, and it's not just a 5 by 5 foot section. This is what
Right.
30 by 20, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Goliaths are showing some skill with it, but even for them, the two of them, this is a heavy floor.
Yeah. So Kaylee is going to fly up. Because she doesn't want to tire the Goliaths. And honestly, if we want to go down and do any exploring, we should probably figure out how to rig it so that there's enough space for a person to crawl out.
All right, so you're
one
floating.
of us
You're floating back up,
so- Yep.
and then Redreth, presumably you're following her back up.
Yep, that I am.
Okay, and Goliaths, what are you doing as they float back up?
Getting out.
Or
Holding the floor.
Are you going to continue to hold the floor for them, or are you going to let it down?
No, I got to
Once
hold
they're
it till
out,
they
we'll
get
let it
out
down.
anyway.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, after they get out and they're back up at your level, are you going to continue to
Mhm.
hold it until they decide what to do, or are you going to take a break?
We'll take a break.
Okay, so
We can get back up if necessary.
are you letting go
Yeah.
of it, or are you letting it down?
Soft, let it down. Well, I don't know. After all that dancing, I want to play teeter totter. Anyway, probably shouldn't.
Yeah,
Just softly
nice
let
and
it down.
soft.
All right, so you lay it down softly. A little bit of, dexterity required, so you don't get your fingers caught in the floor and can let go of it without, letting it drop too far. But as soon as you drop it and it rests flat again, you all hear a very large mechanical clank.
Oh, that's right. The
Yeah,
24
shit.
hours. He said that we
Yeah.
would be trapped for 24 hours. So now the floor is good for 24 hours.
No, it's locked for 24 hours.
Yeah, it's locked.
Right,
So now
but we
it's
can walk
solid.
on
You can
top.
walk-
Floor.
Oh,
We can
right.
walk
Yeah,
on
we
the
can
floor
just
now
walk.
without any.
Yeah.
Yep. Anybody want to investigate the room? I'll investigate the room.
May as well. I was gonna say may as well.
Well, actually, what we got to do is move both of you guys back down here, first of all, because you're holding the floor. And presumably you had to dance back across the ballroom floor to get down to that point. All right, so all four of you are back above. The floor is back down in place. You heard a large clank. And if I understand correctly, one or both of the Goliaths are going to step out onto the floor to test it.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Pegas.
Yeah. Kaylee will hover over the dance floor and allow Redress to hover near the Goliaths in case in case something happens and Redress decides he wants to rescue them with a dimension door.
Well, the three of them are able to walk over that side of the floor now. Nothing is moving. It feels very, very secure.
Kaylee is going to say something about the passageway and indicate her curiosity about finding out where it leads, as well as her thought that the Goliath probably won't be too comfortable if they wanted to, if they tried to go through it. Because it looks, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like it'd be something of a squeeze for us slender elf build people.
It looks honestly about the right size for a dwarf. It's
I'm gonna
sufficiently
say 4
wide.
foot
so
by
you
4
sh-
foot.
I said
that's
4
actually not-
footish. I said 4
Oh,
footish.
okay.
So it looks about the right size to fit a dwarf. So it's not too cramped in terms of width, but it is definitely a small diameter. They would have to probably pull themselves through on their elbows, and if it got any narrower, they wouldn't be able to pass.
Okay. But you know, a 5 foot tall dwarf would, or a 5 foot tall elf would be a little cramped. But
Cramped, you'd have to bend down, but it's not so narrow that you wouldn't be able to pass, but you would have to crouch.
yeah, okay. But she wants to make sure that we're okay, that, you know, we're okay with only some of the party being able to explore down there. You guys are probably starting to realize that she has weird
Fixations?
she gets curious. Yeah, she gets curious about the weirdest things and couldn't care less about other things that seem like they should be important to a lot of people.
Yeah, but that's how you find some of the golden gems sometimes, you know?
Exactly.
You never know what's going to be hidden where, especially if you don't know what your DM has in store for you.
Of course, it helps when the player of the character has weird, when the player's brain works weirdly like that.
You know, but that makes for the most interesting games too, also. So
exactly, which is why I don't mind letting them out.
Mm-hmm. And why I appreciate having you in my campaigns, Alex. But with that being said, we are pretty much at our 3-hour mark. And this seems like as good a place as any to break. I guess the big question is, if you guys are going to try to figure out a way to get back in there now, or if you're going to wait it out for 24 hours. So there certainly is plenty of other stuff for you to do, and you can come back if you choose to do so. You can eat up at least 8 hours of that with a long rest if you choose to do so. These are things that you can think about over the next 2 weeks, and we can decide how to proceed at that point.
Yeah, Elohir is not too fussed about the timing of when we go down and explore that tunnel. She just kind of wants to explore it and see where it goes and what's at the other end.
Send the weasel.
And of course, the rest of you still need to voice your opinions about whether or not it's worth it, whether or not you want to be bothered, whether you're more interested in doing something else, or you're just going to be loyal to your ranger and help her out.
Red dress game if other people want to do it, but we also can explore something else and come back too.
True.
Yep. That's, you know,
Yeah.
she's fully aware that we got, you know, a full day to wait before we can open the floor again, and that's plenty of time to go off exploring and at least temporarily forget that there's a passage to be explored.
We have tendency enough to fixate. I think we should move on and come back.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, you guys are definitely completionists, but you still haven't done everything along the way.
We have not done everything. There was a portal to an elemental plane of evil that
Basically it was hell.
That Elohir was adamant that she was not going to go into unless somebody tied her up and dragged her.
And the paladin needed a little bit of reasoning in order to convince him that he was not going to accomplish anything by going through it.
Not at this point.
Not at that level.
Still not fully convinced.
No, but you were convinced enough that we could drag you away.
All right, folks. Well, no, we had no battles. We had no damage taken, but hopefully you guys enjoyed yourself.
Absolutely.
I had fun. I like the floor, the dance floor. That was awesome.
Yeah, and kudos to Albie for figuring out its purpose and intent. He's going to get an experience
yeah.
bonus for that.
Cool.
And yeah, glad you were able to make it. I'm glad you got your rig fixed or taken care of enough that you could get reconnected. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can figure out that space issue. I'm going to tell you right now, it's something I've run into repeatedly over the years, and Microsoft has no official fix for it. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but I'll see if I can find an article that'll walk you through what you can do.
Oh, goody.
Yep.
Cool.
And
Thanks for the gig, guys.
I also just want it known that Redrith hovers over to the floor here and then drops the spell, and he is now out of 3rd level spell slots, so he cannot do the fly thing unless he wastes the 4th level spell slot. So,
and
That'd be
and
one of the
keep it-
rest if we have the time to rest.
Yeah, also keep in mind that there are now the 3 of you on the floor, so the music is playing again, and you're gonna have to dance or fly if you want to move on that floor.
yeah, I'd probably go all the way back out of that room if it was
Across
Before-
the hall or back into the room that
I-
was exposed by
I
the
would
glass wall?
probably go back over here since I know that if I'm going to let the spell drop. I wouldn't want to let it drop up here where I didn't know what it was or what might happen. So I'll let it drop right there just outside the room and call that good for now. So
Okay, and then with that in mind, with just Kaylee and Mizram on the floor, there's music playing, but the floors are not swaying.
Well, just to let you know, the weasel is doing techno dance moves.
There's some great animation potential there for sure.
So if you were to say the music's playing, but there are no instruments, is that the same as the lights are on, but nobody's home?
Right.
Could be.
Possibly.
Catch you guys later.
Just checking.
Have a
All
good
right,
2
have
weeks.
a good
Take care.
couple
Take it
weeks, guys.
easy, everybody.
Thanks
Good
all for
session.
everything,
See ya.
and we'll see you then.
Thank you for the game. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry about earlier. All I wish wish it
It
didn't
was
happen.
not a problem. As stuff happens, you made it back. So,
Yeah, well, that was the technical problem I was having earlier on my old system. I don't know why the Windows and so Windows Discord or Zoom. I don't know why it's fighting to take ownership of how to communicate and listen through sound, and I don't know why.
yeah, sometimes other apps take over and don't let go. Another fun
Yeah,
issue with technology recently.